This week at Lebanon Road, we're talking about patience. This is Adam Fawn. I'm joined as always by J.D. Buckner, or Andrew Pate. J.D. is away this week. He is helping out preachers camp down in the Columbia area, and we know he's doing a great work there. And Andrew did such a great job last week that he kicked J.D. right out of the chair and is joining us this week. But Andrew, we appreciate you being with us here, not just today, but you're doing a good job already here at Lebanon Road. We want to talk this week a little about patience, and I want to ask you as we start, why do we struggle so much with this?
I think for the most part we struggle with this because of the fact that we're in a world that we expect things now.
Would you hurry up with your answer?
Yeah, exactly. I can remember a couple of years ago, when internet was, we were okay with dial-up, and now, we can't stand dial-up. No. So I just think the world is growing more and more impatient. So I think that would be, I guess, a good way to look at it.
Yeah, we want, the old thing is we want instant everything.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a thing, I don't know, a year ago or so, where some particular fast food restaurant was running tests on how they could improve the speed of their drive-through, and they said that their average time per car before this study was something like 55 seconds. And I'm thinking, we can't wait 55 seconds. Agreed. Of course, my thinking is, I hope it take the extra 5 seconds to actually cook the thing. Mm-hmm. That's right. Take the extra 5 to 10 seconds and actually cook the meat, before you get it out there. But I think that's just one illustration. And you mentioned internet. Everything. If you sit at a red light for 20 seconds, you can feel your blood pressure going up.
Agreed.
And then when we deal with people, and especially when we deal with people on a deep level, maybe we're working through a conflict. Maybe we're having a difficulty with a spouse, or maybe even just within the congregation, just a brother or sister in Christ isn't getting along. And those things take a long time. It's not half a conversation. It's not shoot off an email and that's going to take care of the problem. But the Bible tells us that patience is not only something we must do, it tells us something that we must be. And I want you to read for us, if you've got your Bible there, Galatians 5. It's a passage most of us know very well, at least can kind of summarize, if not quote. It's the fruit of the Spirit passage. Galatians 5, read for us 22 through 24 of that chapter.
But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. And those who belong to Jesus Christ have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires.
All right, I wanted to read through 24. I think most of us know that the list, and of course patience is on there, the fruit of the Spirit. But then verse 24 talks about how those who are Christians have crucified the old self. And really, if you think through, the things we crucify are the opposite of the things in that list. So being impatient, or being, having a quick temper, flying off the handle easy, whatever, however we want to describe that, is not how the Spirit acts. And so it's not how I should act. But patience there is not just, here's a list to check off. It's who I am. Peter, in 2 Peter chapter 1, talks about those things we're to add to. And one of the things on the list there is perseverance or patience, depending on the translation someone reads there. But he begins that list by saying, make every effort to add to your faith knowledge, temperance, and all those things. He's not saying, you know what, it sure is easy to be patient. Or it sure is easy to be knowledgeable, or anything else in that list. Make every effort to add those things. But the other passage I want to take just a moment to think about is the beginning of the book of James. Because James has been called the handbook of the New Testament, the Christian's handbook. It's easily, I think, the most practical book. There's doctrine in it, but it's the one you can just read it every day and go, okay, that's how I should live. And the way he starts is with patience. James 1, notice what he says here in verses 2 through 4. Consider it all joy, my brethren, when you encounter various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance or patience. Some translations have steadfastness. And let endurance have its perfect result, so that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. Now here's what I think is kind of funny. Most of us know verse 5. If anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask of God. We forget what he just said. Slow down. Right? Right? We jump right to the verse we know, 1:5, and we skip through the part where it says, you know what, this life is not going to be easy. You're going to be tested. consider various trials, the translation I read. You're going to have trials. You're going to have testing. You're going to have persecution. You're going to have difficulty. But let those things work out patience in your life. And then he says, let endurance have its perfect result. And what's the result? That you may be perfect or fulfilled and complete and lacking nothing. I think what he's saying there is, if I can ever look at my life and say, you know what? I am totally patient. Maybe I've made it.
Right.
Maybe I've gotten there. And of course, you look at the life of Christ. There's your example. Because I never can look at my life and say, I've made it that far.
Right.
I can never, hang me on a cross, I'm going to try to come down. Not Jesus. And he could have, the song called 10 Days, he could have done anything to get down off that cross, but always patient. That doesn't mean he was always, it doesn't mean he didn't get angry. Those are two different things. But he was always patient, always long-suffering. And of course, 1 Corinthians 13, the very first thing on that famous list, love is patient. Oh! Wouldn't it be a whole lot easier to love wives or to love someone who's kind of mean to me if that wasn't on the list? But it's the first thing.
I think with being patient, I think we have a lot of times in our lives where we could really learn to do that. Especially, I can remember a couple weeks ago I was out with my family at the Mexican restaurant, and normally, when we get our food, we get it within the first 30 minutes. But we had to wait for an hour for our food. I got a little angry, and I don't know why that is. I don't know why that. Before, I'm sure back in the days where you couldn't really go and out to eat all the time and afford all these things, and you'd have to at least hunt for your food and do things like that. I don't know how I would be that day having to go from this to do that.
Only an hour was fast food.
Right. And so it's like I always think about this. I always use the internet and technology. How we get so frustrated with we don't have things now. If I can't watch a video on YouTube in HD just like that, I get upset. And I'm paying this much a month to do, to be able to do this. So I think, like you said, if we have learned patience, we've basically made it. Because I think a lot of anger and a lot of frustration and a lot of things that happen in our lives are through us not being patient. And maybe if our country was to be patient with some things, especially in Washington, if we could be patient with the process and stick with it, then maybe we wouldn't be in some of the situations that we're in.
That's a good point too. It's not just a personal thing. It's a church thing. It's a national thing. It's a business thing. Businesses that really work through a problem instead of just let's try to solve this in some quick reaction. Usually the ones that make it through, that get through difficulties, get through conflict, and those sorts of things. But I like that you mentioned there that if I can learn how to control myself and how to work on patience and things that don't really matter. The restaurants, that's a little bit slow. The internet's a little bit slower than I want it to be, those sorts of things. Then I'm going to more easily be patient when I have to deal with something that's a lot more important. Someone who's attacking me, maybe a conflict with my children, maybe someone in the church that I just am struggling with. But if I've learned to control myself on the stuff that really doesn't matter, then I'm more likely to be able to control myself on the things that really do matter. And so that's actually a really good suggestion to think about. When that light stays red for 5 more seconds than I think it should, that's all right. Unless my wife's about to give birth, it's all right.
You almost have to do this pressure point thing just to calm yourself. But also, I guess with studying the Bible, also, if you're studying with someone that is wanting to be baptized and they're not, progressing as fast as you'd want them to. It can be frustrating, and that could seriously drive them away if you are being very impatient with them. We know that time is of the essence. We know that we're not promised tomorrow, but at the same time, I think God will take care of us no matter what situation that we're going to be in, and so He sees forth effort. And I think that we just need to be patient in the things that come into our lives. Like you said, not try to have a quick fix and everything.
That's right. And we're testing your patience on this video because we've made it a little longer than normal. We're just seeing if you're really listening to what we're saying. We just wanted to think about this topic today because it is something that so many of us struggle with. Maybe not in our whole lives, maybe some specific area of life, and it's something we always need to be making every effort to add to our Christian life, to those virtues of patience or endurance or steadfastness. Being this week at Lebanon Road, we want to let you know about a couple of things that are upcoming. Tomorrow night, Thursday night, we will be hosting here at Lebanon Road the Summer Youth Series. Our young people throughout the summer go to these events, but we're always blessed once each summer to actually host it here. And we usually have about 300, sometimes even as many as 350 people here in our building, and love that that night. The singing is great, the lessons are always great, and we always are in need of food and people to help with the food, and we've been announcing that for weeks here at church. But if you don't mind, if you haven't signed up, either sign up or call the office and we'll put your name on and let you know what we still have need of to finish out that list and make sure we have enough food for all these young people and the adults that are coming with them. This Sunday at 5 o'clock, we'll be having a Vacation Bible School staff meeting, and if all goes to plan, this will be the last full staff meeting before VBS. I'm sure some of the departments will get together from time to time, but I hate meetings. That's one thing you'll learn. That's one thing you'll learn this summer. I hate meetings, and so we try to have as few as possible. We need to all get together, make sure we're on the same page. So if you are a teacher or a teacher's aide or helping with crafts, those sorts of things, we'll meet at 5 o'clock Sunday evening to plan Vacation Bible School. Any other thing for the young people coming up in the next 5 or 6 days?
I think we've got Meltdown on Wednesday night at 5 at the house. We're trying to go through the Bible, the series, and pick out some things.
I was going to say, that's a very ambitious goal to go through the Bible in one summer. It's about the film. Yeah.
The film, the Bible. This thing would take a little longer, but like
tonight, Deuteronomy through Psalms.
Be patient. But we're going through that, and if you'd like to join us, it's not just for the young, it's for the old too. So we've got plenty of room, plenty of couches in there. So if you'd like to join us, we'd be happy with that. Also, we have a mission trip coming up the 8th through the 14th. I know we don't have a whole lot signed up for that. So if you feel the need that you would like to get your missionary work on, we would be more than happy to help you get to that point with us.
Get your Great Commission on.
Yes, sir.
That's right. Well, we appreciate you joining us this week for our video this week at Lebanon Road. And we know this one's a little bit longer than normal, but sometimes we just got to be patient in this life.
Be patient.
We look forward to next week being with you. And until then, this is This Week at Lebanon Road.